Our conversation today about the creative economy can sometimes be conceptual and aspirational and rooted in idealisms, but we've brought two esteemed economists, i.e. people way smarter than me, to share some actual research with us all today, and they can analyze the impact and power that the creative industries can have on a community. So please help me welcome Seiji Steimetz and Robert Kleinhenz.
Thank you very much. I'm waiting for Robert to come out. All right. Good morning, everyone. I'm Seiji Steimetz. This is Robert Kleinhenz, and we stand before you as the least creative and therefore least interesting people you will meet at this event today. Dude, they're going to hate this. But what we're about to show you, the research we're about to show you is important enough that Julia and Intertrend and LBEP, they commissioned it, and so please bear with us. We think what we're going to show you is going to be worth the wait. But we are going to show you a lot of data. So, and by we, by the way, I should mention the Office of Economic Research at the California State University, Long Beach. This research that you're about to see was put together by Dr. Kleinhenz, Megan and Naya. Megan, are you in the room here? All right, can you stand up even though nobody can see you? Megan did all the heavy lifting so that Robert and I could just take credit for it. And then, of course, we have Herman Singh. And again, I am Seiji Steimetz. Now, Robert's about to show you a lot of data. And so what I wanted to do, at least keep you awake for the first part, is give you some framing, some context about economic growth. We all know about Mayor Richardson's Grow Long Beach initiative, right? So I want to frame what we're about to show you in the context of growing our local economy. And to do that, I want to do a quick lesson. Can I use that word? Let's do a quick lesson on the distinction between local industries and traded industries. Okay, local industries, for example, are like grocery stores. Grocery stores are businesses that are in the local economy, serving the local community, serving local customers. Customers exchange money with the grocery store, and the money stays within the economy. Now, do you think we can grow our local economy by circulating money within the local economy? No, we do have one person who says we can, and there is some truth to that, and it has to do with spillover effects and leakages and an impact model that we could talk about, but if that's where you're going, I'd love to talk to you after this, right? But in general, right, and don't get me wrong, the local industries are extremely important. That's what builds our community, serves our community locally. But to grow the local economy, you need to inject new money into the local economy. So a kind of generic example would be aircraft parts. Aircraft parts would be in what we would call the traded industry, a traded industry, because we trade aircraft parts with the rest of the world. We make it here, sell it outside of our local economy, that brings money in, and then creates jobs and income. And where do people spend that income? In the local economy, thank you. It's cheating if you're the CEO of the Long Beach Economic Partnership to answer that, right? But that's exactly right. So the point is that the traded industries serve to inject money into the local economy by selling to the rest of the world and thereby growing the local economy. But now let's consider, for example, advertising and design, right? Intertrend, or let's add architecture in there, like Studio 111. Alan Pullman, you out here? Oh, you already saw him. All right. His partner's here. All right, okay. Well, I'm giving you a plug, and you got to stand up for that. Right, these are clear examples of parts of the traded economies that are bringing in jobs and income, right? But these are part of the creative sector. What I'm getting at here is the creative economy can be one of these traded sectors, but then let's start thinking about other industries in the creative economy, like galleries and museum or performing arts. I mean, when you go to the Louvre in Paris, is it full of Parisians? No, that's a pretentious thing to say. Well, when I was at the Louvre. The point is, if you start examining more and more, you start going through the different industries in the creative economy, you're going to see that nearly all of them are in the traded industries, right? And then those effects, bringing that new money in, has spillover effects into things like tourism, right? The people come to see our galleries, our events, and then they stay in our hotels. And that can also have feedback effects. You create this creative economy, it brings more creative people in, you create a creative knowledge base, a creative culture, and that can spawn new creative industries. I personally think that Long Beach should be the next fashion hub of Southern California. All right. Anyways, the takeaway, sorry, Robert, I'll hand it over to you a second. The takeaway here is that traded sectors bring in money to grow the economy, and that the creative economy is part of that growing traded sector. Or to put into a soundbite, when you share your imagination and creativity with the world, they become engines of economic growth. And with that, to teach you a little bit about some of the parts of this engine, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Dr. Kleinhenz.
Well, that was the entertainment portion of the program. Thanks, Seiji. So good morning, everybody. My wife and I have lived here for over 30 years. We've enjoyed being residents of Long Beach, and for well over 30 years, I've been working as an economist. And over the course of my career, I've had the good fortune to do a lot of research on the creative economy here in Southern California and the entire state. Any of you know about the Otis report on the creative economy? It's something that's been around for about 15 years, and during a stint that I had previously as chief economist with the LADC, I produced that over many years' time. Doing the same sort of thing at the city level is a little bit more challenging because it's hard to get data on individual industries for a single city. But fortunately, we at Cal State Long Beach have a working relationship with the city and the EDD to be able to get information that allows us to do the type of drill downs that we're going to be looking at now. So much of what you've heard today has to do with what I think of as that sort of traditional view of the creative economy, which includes arts and culture, things like museums and so on. But you've also heard a great deal about that other part of the creative economy, areas of the economy where that are involving some type of application of design and creativity to something that results in some end product that is commercially offered up or sold. So we need to talk about both of those and their presence in the local economy here in Long Beach, because, you know, the whole theme of today's event is catalyzing the creative economy. The creative economy itself can serve as a catalyst to other parts of the local economy, as we'll see. Now, over on the left-hand side, those are the parts of the creative economy that you typically think of. But over on the right-hand side, you can see, as Seiji mentioned, architecture, interior design, marketing and communications, all sorts of things that are on the commercial side also happen to be a part of the creative economy. We're going to take a look at what makes this creative economy tick, how it merges with the rest of the economy, and we're going to do so by looking at the people, the positions, the places, that is to say, you know, the jobs that are out there, the occupations that are out there, the industries, how much money people make, how many self-employed persons there are. Now, we're very limited on time. I could easily talk with you maybe through lunch and actually have enough slides to do that, but I'm not going to do that, Julia. So let's talk about the creative industries for starters. We take, let's back up for a second. There are about 1,000 industries in the US economy that are identified. There are somewhere in the neighborhood of about 180 industries that are considered to be creative industries. We don't have time to get into the reasons why, but just think about, you know, wherever you've got some sort of creative or design involved element of those, then you're thinking about something that's a creative industry. So we've grouped 80-odd industries that are part of the creative industry, 180-odd industries that are part of the creative sector into these 5 categories. And here in Long Beach, about 60 to 70 of them are represented in our local economy. So we're going to ask questions like, you know, how big is the creative economy relative to the Long Beach economy? Where are the largest numbers of jobs? Where are the highest paying jobs? Things like that. And, you know, these are pieces of information that can be used to make the case for greater public support of the creative economy and its different aspects. There are all sorts of uses for this. You can measure growth in the creative economy and how it contributes to the broader economy by looking at these kinds of things. So for starters, let's take a look at the number of establishments, the amount of employment, and so on in the creative economy here in Long Beach. 746 establishments. These are just wage and salary establishments. It doesn't include self-employed. About 5,300 persons are employed as wage and salary workers, and the average pay is a little over 100,000 across those 5,300 odd jobs. You can compare that with the overall Long Beach economy. It's about 3 to 4% in terms of jobs and establishments. It's a little bit more in terms of payroll. But look at that, average wage, which is about 50% higher. In terms of employment, it breaks down in such a way that architecture and related industries and entertainment, marketing and communications each account for about 40+% of total employment. So these are the heavyweights in the industry, not that the others are underperforming by any means. Do keep in mind that when it comes to the fine and performing arts, you've got a huge segment of labor force, if you will, that is volunteer, that shows up and, you know, ushers you to your seats at this theater when you come to pay a visit. Those kinds of things don't show up in these numbers. In terms of the establishments, once again, it's entertainment and architecture that tend to be the largest in terms of the share of the total. And if it seems like I'm racing through this, you better believe there's a lot more stuff to come. And I'm looking at my timer with 19 minutes and 10 seconds, so just bear with me. Payroll. So we've got about $550 million worth of payroll coming from these 66 odd industries in these 5 creative sectors. And you can see how that breaks down too, with architecture accounting for a little bit over a half. Now, I just want to point out to you, we'll be, you know, Intertrend will get all of this information, as will the Long Beach Economic Partnership. And over time, we'll be able to share it with you and others as time goes past. So if it seems like I'm racing through this, it's partly because I have a lot of information that I want to share, and I'm only going to be able to touch on the highlights today. So here you're looking at entertainment, marketing, and related industries, and among them, digital media is the largest. Years ago, we would not have even thought about digital media being a part of this category, but today it's a dominant share of the category. And look at the growth rate on the far right. Over the last 5 years, 68%. This is just in terms of employment. A big contributor to growth in the overall creative economy. Fine and performing arts is where you traditionally think of arts and culture. Job counts in the neighborhood of 600. But look at the growth on the far right-hand side. Over the past 5 years, we've seen it up 43%. Architecture, design, and related services account for about 2,300 jobs in total. So here I just want to point out, we're talking about the creative economy, but it doesn't exist in a vacuum. It also has close ties with the general economy. And so if you think back 5 years ago, we were in a period of low interest rates and an economy that was doing rather well. The pandemic had not yet hit. This is 2017. So there was a lot of activity in construction, engineering, as well as architecture. A lot of building development taking place both on the residential and the non-residential side. You shift forward to 2022, which is the data for the most recent year, and interest rates are higher. We've got cooler climate, if you will, in the construction industry and so on. So accordingly, you see that showing up in a 13% decline in jobs compared to our benchmark. As for fashion, anybody who's been tracking fashion and the apparel industry here in Southern California for any length of time knows that job counts have been falling fairly steadily over the last 20 years or so. And it's no different here in Long Beach compared to all of LA County and really the fashion sector throughout the United States. This part of the world is still one of the dominant fashion hubs in the United States, along with New York City. But there have been structural changes over time that have led to the decline that you see, that 83% decline in jobs in the fashion sector here in Long Beach over the last 5 years. That's just a part of a long-term structural change where, you know, so much of this industry outside of design is occurring outside of the United States. So we took a quick tour of the 5 sectors. One that I didn't mention, let me see if I can use the back button, is creative goods and products. You know, we've got a concentration of this here in Long Beach. It includes things like toy manufacturing. Anybody ever hear of Barbie? Mattel, and any number of other industries that are a part of this. Furniture making is another part of this creative goods and product sector. You see that we don't have a lot of detail on these, and that's because the data that we're using, as I said, is confidential data that has to be rolled up to a certain level of aggregation to prevent disclosure of the actual firms that are in these businesses. So we can't really go beyond what you see here, but just know that there is a vital presence of these sectors as well. Many people in the creative sector are self-employed. They're 1099 workers, they're gig workers, and perhaps they're even doing work on the side, even as they're working as a wage and salary employee in another concern. So we wanted to document the presence of self-employed among the creative working group. And so this is information for 2021. Everything else we've been talking about up to this point has been for 2022. But I want to compare apples to apples. We have 2021 data for self-employed. So go down, you can see the job counts of payroll workers and then the number of self-employed, third column sort of in the middle. And you'll notice that there are significant numbers of creative workers in each one of these categories, each one of these creative sectors, with the exception of fashion. And altogether, they amount to about 4,000 workers. So, you know, we started off with about 5,300 workers in wage and salary capacity. Then you add another 4,300 workers that are self-employed persons. Now you're talking about a significant share of the overall economy that is a part that is included in these 5 creative sectors. And in terms of the self-employed, they account for about 15% of the total. Okay, so we've looked at each of these sectors. We've done a little bit of a deep dive to see what they are made of. It's a good idea to take a step back and ask ourselves, well, how has this sector fared over the last several years? How has it fared in relation to the broader economy? So that's what you're looking at here. You're looking at a bar chart that shows employment over the last few years for the creative economy, showing a slight upward trend with a couple of hiccups. You're also looking at a black line that represents the number of wage and salary jobs in the city of Long Beach over these past several years as well. Both have generally shown an upward climb with some exceptions, but there in the bottom right-hand side, you can see how the two have fared over the last year and over the last 5 years. So over the last 5 years, the creative economy has seen an uptick of 4.3% in terms of employment, as the overall economy has seen job gains of about 11 to 12%. So how much money do people make in these industries? So that's the next question. And so here you've got the 5 industries that we've been talking about. You look at the average wage shown in what I think is red. I am colorblind to a certain extent. So that leftmost bar is the average wage for workers in the city of Long Beach. Next to that is all of LA and Orange County, the LA MSA. Then you've got the state of California, and then you've got the US. And so the 2 bars that are $100,000 or higher are in entertainment and in architecture and related. Those others, the fine arts, the fashion, and the other creative goods, we're looking at wages that are somewhat lower than those, but still very much in line with what we see across the nation and across California. I think one of the remarkable things here is how architecture is kind of rising to the top, and I'm not, pandering to Alan Pullman or anybody like that. That was one of the surprises that I found, was the significance of that sector. And if we were able to peel away the onion, we would also see things like the marketing and communications part of entertainment would also show that same sort of strength. So now I need to just ask you to bear with me for a little bit and give you some technical stuff so that I can go to the next step, which is to talk about the relative importance of the creative sector here in Long Beach. So it's one thing to talk about job count. We've got 5,300 jobs in wage and salary jobs in the economy that are creative jobs. We've got another 4,300 self-employed persons. How does that stack up with the broader economy? For that, we look at something called industry concentration, calculate something called a location quotient. So just ignore what you see on the screen and just think of this. We're taking the share of jobs in an industry within Long Beach. We're looking at the share of jobs in an industry across the nation. Take the ratio of the two. If they're equal, then Long Beach has the same share of those jobs in that industry as the US as a whole. If it's larger than one, it's a bigger share, smaller than one, smaller share. So one typically views those numbers above one as areas of strength for the local economy. So we want to know if there are some areas of strength in the creative economy here in Long Beach. And in my view, as opposed to seeing numbers below one representing deficiencies, I view those as opportunities for growth. So let's see what we get. So that black bar that you're looking at across the screen is 1. So any number below is less than 1, anything above is greater than 1. We're comparing Long Beach numbers with the numbers for the LA MSA. And so fine arts is nearly 1, easy enough to close that gap. Architecture and related is over 1, it's about 1.3. Entertainment, fashion, other creative goods, a little bit less than 1/2. So again, as I look at these numbers, you know, we think about things like fashion. Even if the structural changes are diminishing the number of jobs in fashion, this is still a hub for fashion here in Southern California. So there are opportunities for the city of Long Beach to attract people who are involved in the design and so on of fashion. Other creative goods. We have this huge metropolitan area here in Southern California that is a ready market, a close market for people who are in these other creative goods industries, not to mention the fact that they could extend their markets beyond our regional borders. Entertainment, we've got great facilities here in Long Beach that can be put to the use of drawing additional crowds for entertainment purposes. And don't forget that entertainment also includes marketing and communications, and these are sectors of the economy that already have a reach that extends beyond here in Long Beach. And so every one of these bars, no matter whether they're above or below 1, to me, there's a story behind them, and there's a story here that tells us we've got opportunities that we can capitalize on. So that takes me to this last segment, which is the connection of the creative economy to other parts of the broader economy. You heard Seiji talk about how the creative economy consists of a bunch of industries that are traded industries. We produce in these industries some product or service that has a market that extends beyond the city boundaries. In almost every case, the market extends beyond the regional boundaries as well. Those additional markets that are served, as Seiji pointed out, generate income that enters the local economy and sustains and adds growth to these local population serving industries. It's a little hard for me to read it down there, so I'm gonna have to take a look up here. But restaurants and bars, you know, there's a great question about whether or not the food industry belongs in the culinary art, or well, it is a part of the culinary arts, but whether it belongs in the creative economy or not. The current taxonomy doesn't include that, but we just had dinner last night at the Heritage Farm. Talk about artwork. Every dish that was brought out was a work of art, not to mention something that was truly delicious. So you've got all these allied industries that are in some way connected to these creative industries. And here are just a few examples. The entertainment, arts, and culture sector, which has about 2,900 jobs, is very much tied to the broader tourism and hospitality industry, which has about 30,000 jobs just here in Long Beach. So there are synergies between these creative segments of the economy and the broader economy that you see here. Architecture and related. So it's easy to see the connection between architecture, construction, engineering, real estate development. You heard so much about that today. And so there you're talking about another 10,000 jobs just in the Long Beach economy that are a part of those sectors. And marketing and advertising, 400 jobs, if you saw the number on the slide earlier. Well, you've got clients everywhere, right? People in marketing and advertising have clients and meet their clients' needs in business, in government, in nonprofit sectors. So their ties are quite extensive and just exemplify how broad the creative economy's reach can be into these other sectors of the economy. And here we're talking about 167,000 jobs just in Long Beach, but if you've got clients that are outside, that are in Texas, that are in London, then you're talking about an even bigger reach. And those recirculatory effects on the local economy are that much greater. So all in all, you know, I think we've documented the importance of the creative economy, the industries that make up the creative economy, the kind of contribution they make. We asked some questions at the beginning of our session. What are the largest sectors in the creative economy? Well, in terms of employment, the amount of payroll, the number of establishments, it's entertainment and related and architecture and related. In terms of the highest paying sector, we're talking about agriculture, right. There is some agriculture we found in Long Beach today with some of those videos, but it's architecture. And then in terms of the presence of creative workers in Long Beach, when you add up the self-employed and you add the number of people who are wage and salary workers, it's about 11% of all the workers here in Long Beach. In terms of self-employed, about 4,000 or 15%. So these kinds of data can help us to understand the contribution that the different parts of the creative economy make to the broader economy. And you know, back when I was the chief economist for the LADC, we would take the Otis report up to Sacramento and talk to the state assembly and to the senators and engender in them further public support for the arts. These are the kinds of things that you can do with the numbers that we have to present to you today. And so I just want to wrap up by reminding us that, you know, the creative sector is has a very important role in the local economy. It has a presence that extends beyond the creative economy itself. And while I've been talking about the numbers of jobs and I've been talking about the amount of payroll and how much money people make, you know, that's still just part of the story. The broader story is so much of what you've heard today, the non-pecuniary aspects of the creative economy. And I just want to back up, and as I wrap up, I just want to point out that, you know, typically my job is to talk about the numbers, and I'm always striving to put a face on the numbers so that I can tell the story. Well, the face on the numbers of the day of the slides that I've shown you today has shown up time and time again this morning in this couch, listening to all these other individuals talk about their experiences in the various creative sectors of the local economy and elsewhere. So you take their stories, you match them up with our numbers, and I think you've got a complete picture of the Long Beach creative economy. So thank you. Now it's joke time because Seiji's back. So do you want to sit down?
I think maybe we have time for one question.
Yeah, for sure. Let's take a look at some of the audience questions that came in. Was there anything you wanted to add, Seiji, while you're on stage?
Great job, Dr. Great job, Dr. Kleinhenz. Was it worth it? All right, good.
Well, I would just say a quick question for both of you that we got from the audience was, you know, in what ways would you think that Long Beach is unique in terms of the economics here versus LA, OC, New York, or other cities in the US?
So fortunately, I live here, so I have some direct experience to draw from in addition to being the person who looks at the numbers. And, you know, if you do live here, you know that this is, you know, anywhere else in the country, this would be a large city. Just happens to be in the shadow of LA, which has about 4 million people. It's a very livable large city. There is the university vibe that you get from Cal State Long Beach. There is the professional vibe that you get from so many businesses here in Long Beach. There's that bohemian underworld vibe that you get here. You get all that here, and it's all very compact and very accessible. So I think those are, some of the things that make Long Beach unique relative to larger places like New York and Los Angeles. And we could talk about the numbers, but I just got done talking about them. So do you want to
Anything
add?
to add?
Well, I'll just add that it's also a relatively inexpensive place to have a beachside community. The vibe and the urban culture and the beach proximity. I know, housing is expensive everywhere in Southern California and California in general, but it's a relative bargain here. And that's why I keep pushing on the same thing goes for some commercial space. I'm going to push the whole thing. I think fashion should have a bigger presence in Long Beach because it's got that fashion culture, but at discount prices. So.
That's great. Well, listen, we have more opportunities to chat with both of you afterwards. Let's give them a hand. Thank you so much.